Hello and welcome to Craft of the Draft. I'm Mitch Keating. He's Jonty Smith, and we've got a massive episode in store for you. What's on the agenda?
Power rankings today, Mitch. Who are the risers? Who are the sliders of June? We've got a review of every under-18s national championship squad and plenty of weekend highlights coming your way.
Be sure to like, subscribe, and if you just want some fun AFL-related chat, you can go check out the Hit Out, which is out every week on Zero Hangers YouTube page. Hello and welcome to another episode of Craft of the Draft, and we have a pretty big one coming up today. Our June prospect rankings are in. We can recap the season opener of the national championships between the Allies and SA, and we're going to look at all the other squads as well. So we've got WA and Vic Country this week, Vic Metro as well, playing their first game this weekend. So plenty to get through. Jonty, how are you?
Yeah, really good. Like you said, first game of the national championships, always an exciting time of the year. Mid-season draft in the rearview mirror, so we focus on the end-of-season draft now and all the players who are vying for that. So yeah, the power rankings is a good way to kick that off, and we've expanded to a list of 25 for June.
Yeah, so we had, I think, 13 as kind of the pre-season rankings in April. May we extended that out to 15 just to fit a couple extra in, and now we've looked at 25. Now that we've got a good grasp of the first few months of this year's talent. And obviously with that means 10 fresh faces in the top 25. Where should we start? Should we start from the top?
From the top.
And CDT, Cooper Duff-Tytler, has held his spot at number one, which has been the case, for, I think, for all of our rankings so far this year.
Yeah, he certainly has. It's sort of hard to get a gauge on where his footy sits going into the national championships, just given he has been playing for Pegs in the AGSV competition. He's only played, I think, the one game for Calder across the past month. But yeah, we know his upside as a sort of ruck forward prototype.
Couple of the names, just looking through the next parts on the order, who have touched on a fair bit and at length this year is Dan Annable and Willem Dersma. But the one that probably catches the most attention for a lot of draft watchers in these power rankings is Dill Patterson at number 4, one of the big risers.
Yeah, he certainly is. I think he's got star power that few others possess in this year's draft class. And I think if you look back at the 2024 class, you knew Harvey Langford, or at least you sensed the likes of Harvey Langford, Murphy Reid, Sam Lawler, Josh Smiley, even though we haven't seen him at AFL level yet, we're all going to have the ability to really tear a game apart at some point throughout their career. And we've seen it already with some of those players this year. We saw it with Sam Lawler in opening round, but there's probably less of that in the 2025 draft. But one player that I'd be very, very confident has that ability to break a game is Dylan Patterson. We've seen his form at Gold Coast Academy level. He started quite well as well for the Allies on Sunday. So yeah, he goes up to number 4 as the player that I think the Gold Coast Suns, and it does feel like there's a bit of talk around the Gold Coast Suns probably value him just as highly, if not even more highly than Zeke Uland, who's obviously been injured for all of this season so far and is unlikely to feature for more than a handful of games, if that.
Well, Zeke the Freak is at number 7. So at 5 and 6, we've got Josh Lindsay and Ollie Greaves, two that have been quite consistent. We probably knew where they might sit early into the season, but they've really pressed their case as top 5 prospects. Josh Lindsay, one of the best across the AFL Academy, and Ollie Greaves really in the same across his two performances. But at 7, as you mentioned, Zeke Uland, with that back injury, probably not going to see a lot of him, but he was the only bottom major last year to be in the All-Australian side under 18. So he put up more than enough runs on the board in his bottom major campaign.
Yeah, it's very hard to know where to sort of rank him. The only thing that I'd say that goes against him, other than his injury, and he's been doing some stuff off field to work on himself there, is that he plays in a position that's probably a little bit easier to fill than some of the other players in this draft class, and some of his attributes are probably comparable to some other players, where Dill Patterson has that speed and that athleticism and that bold, daring nature that few others, if any others, sort of possess, which is why I've sort of gone the other way and preference Dill Patterson. But yeah, obviously with the preface that, Zeke Uland obviously hasn't had that right of response, so to speak. He hasn't been playing any footy.
Well, I guess, and this is under the assumption that Uland gets back to his best and is playing healthy football next year, but this probably really can help Gold Coast in a way. It's only really going to push him further back on draft night, and that's really going to help them with this strategy of trying to get Patterson, Uland, and then you talk about, Bo Adensall was 17th on this list. Kobe Colson isn't that far out of the top 25. So in the long term, it might actually help them if he doesn't play that much footy. But hopefully it's something that certainly passes over the next few months. Number 8, just behind him, Sam Grill, another one who's been a bit of a riser this year. I don't think he appeared in our first top 13.
Yeah.
Came into the top 15, and now he's at number 8.
Yeah, and some people would have him even higher than that. Some people have him in the top 5. So, yeah, he's someone who, as a midfielder, he really, really hurts you. His ball use is really, really damaging. A little bit like what I was talking about with Cooper Duff-Tytler. He is playing in the AGSV competition at the moment, so it's hard to get a grasp on where his form sits. It's very hard to overlook the traits that he showed across the first 3 weeks and the professionalism and hard work he would bring to an AFL club as well. Really looking forward to his Vic Metro campaign.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a real point of difference in that midfield.
Yep.
Like Ollie Greaves, the hustle and bustle inside, and then you've just got Sam Grill on the outside. It's going to be absolutely fantastic.
So smooth.
For their carnival. Max King, Sydney's academy prospect at number 9. Dyson Sharp at 10. Now, I think he was second for our April rankings, and he dropped back about, I think, just as many spots. For 8 spots to go to number 10. He's held his place at number 10. But I guess what we've seen and in his carnival opener and what we've seen, I guess, over the last 12 months is we know what we're going to get from Dyson Sharp, but it's the areas that he can probably add that we haven't just seen yet. Yeah,
probably. He still feels low at number 10. I feel a little bit uncomfortable that he is as low as number 10 because I think if you get him at number 10, you're getting a bargain. But yeah, he's had an excellent month of footy. So I was surprised in myself when I came to do this ranking that I couldn't find a way for him to rise. But yeah, we know how good he is as an inside midfielder, so clean around the contest, wins clearances, his pressure. We saw it all on display in a solid, probably but unspectacular first game for South Australia on Sunday. But yeah, it's his kicking and that ability to impact in other ways when the ball's in transition and outside that probably if he's going to rise a little bit more and become sort of that top 5 player that he needs to probably add to his game.
Yeah, no surprise if he was at 2 on this list, and that probably goes to show that how tight it is in this top 10,
right. Yeah.
How close this year's talent pool is from being top to midway through the first round. So that's something that's certainly exciting. AFL clubs is you're going to have a bit of a stab, then you certainly might hit one in that range. Next on the list, Archie Ludovic out of the Sandringham Dragons, key forward at number 11, and 12, Fred Rodriguez, so the first of WA's talent, their captain for this year's carnival, and a player who's has seen his stocks rise quite quickly to start this year.
Yeah, he has. So Archie Ludovic, the only player I think that's gotten on top of him this year is Jacob Marin, and then he sort of turned the tables in a school clash on the weekend. So he hasn't been bested by anyone this year that he hasn't then gone on to best at some point later in the year. So he's beaten every opponent he's played on. Very good year. Fred Rodriguez, probably a little bit of question marks, a little bit like Dyson Sharp around his start to the season. But yeah, the last month he's played in a couple of WA trial matches, really led that midfield with conviction. He's going to captain WA's side at the national championships, and then the WA under 18s versus the WA under 20s game he was very, very strong in as well. So he adds a lot of energy. He adds a little bit of dynamism as well to that midfield mix, and probably doesn't possess that smooth moving point of difference to the same degree as Sam Grill, but still brings a lot to that WA midfield and finds a lot of the footy as well.
His Black Swans teammate Cody Curtin in 13 and a fellow key forward Liam Heatherton in 14, but 15, Noah Chamberlain, a prospect you were really happy with over the weekend, and the second Swans Academy player in the top 15.
Yeah, he's really good overhead, and he's one of those players that just has so much there. It's just a matter of him putting it together. I think we will see it at some point, hopefully throughout the championships, for the sake of the Allies and for the sake of himself. Maybe the Swans would like to see him sort of just drop a little bit for their own for their own interests, so that they don't have to pay as high a price for him. But yeah, that contested marking, that athleticism, it's not something you see very often. And yeah, I think he's certainly got all the tools to become a bona fide player at the next level. And I'm looking forward to that game where he sort of tears it open, because it feels like it's just around the corner.
So he and Rodriguez are 2 of the 10 new additions in our rankings now that we've expanded from 15 to 25. So just rounding out the next few names. So Louis Emmett in 16, so he's pushed back a couple of spots. Bo Adamsall's another new name at 17. Sam Cumming, another one who was in last month's rankings and has pushed back a few spots as well. Collingwood father-son Tom McGuan at 19. WA Toby Wan at 20. And Eastern Rangers small forward Lockie Doverston at 21. So there are a few more new names in that group. But one that might catch the eye, Noah Hibbins-Hargreaves at 22 overall.
Yeah.
Bit of a surprise he's that low.
Yeah, it is. And a little bit like Dyson Sharp, I felt uncomfortable putting him that low. But when it's a combination of form and potential, it's a little bit difficult when he's missed a month of footy so far this year. I think out of everyone on this list, he's the one that I expect to rise throughout the national championships, because he does have that point of difference and that ability to seize big moments like few others in this draft class. He's really good off half forward. We've seen it for Dandenong the last couple of weeks. I think he kicked 4 goals in his return Australian game from that injury, that shoulder injury that ruled him out of that month of footy, and then he kicked the ceiling goal for them on the weekend against Tasmania. But yeah, his run, his polish, his dash, and his goal kicking and marking all sort of combined to make a pretty good package. So I think in a Vic Country team that probably doesn't have the depth of previous years, he's one that could play a key role.
Pure X factor is Noah Hibbins-Hargreaves. Him and Willem Dersma are going to really spark some live wire talent for that Vic Country side over the next month or so. 23 overall Zach McCarthy, who we did an introducing on this week, over the past week. Same with Willem Dersma as well. So if you want a bit more in-depth into those two in particular, you can head to Zero Hanger's YouTube page for those. 24, Tom Burton, player who you're really starting to enjoy this year.
Yeah, I am. Probably the one I got the most feedback on for how low he was on this list, and I do understand why. He's been in scintillating form for the Western Jets, leading that midfield. He's the skipper of the side. I wrote a story for Zero Hanger for them, on him. So check that out at zerohanger.com.au if you want a bit more of an insight into his mindset in particular, and playing with Tom McGuan as well. But probably his kicking needs to just polish that up to some degree if he wants to push up the order. But having said that, if he maintains the form that he's shown for the Western Jets at the National Championships, albeit he'll be playing off half back, then yeah, he won't be outside the top 20 for very long. He'll push his way in there. So yeah, absolutely loved what I've seen from him. He's got gears to his running that not many players have. So he's got that ability to sort of break from a contest and then reach another sort of level of acceleration after that. He bounces the footy. He sort of takes the game on, and you don't know what you're sort of going to get because he's so creative as well. So yeah, he's at 24, but could quite easily be a fair bit higher come the end of the season.
Rory Wright rounds out our 25, the Sandringham midfielder. So between him, Tom Burton, Zach McCarthy, Noah Hibbins-Hargreaves, Lockie Doverston, Toby Wan, Tom McGuan, Bo Adensall, and Noah Chamberlain. They're the 10 newcomers to our power rankings for this month. But there was probably another dozen or so that we probably could have fit into to this if we wanted to. Who are some honourable mentions? Yeah,
I think after Noah Hibbins-Hargreaves, those last three were very hard to sort of sort and fit in. And I'll touch on Rory Wright as well. People have him higher. Some people have him sort of in that 10 to 15 range. I think that lack of speed with the way the game's going, the importance of athleticism is the reason I've got him a bit lower, albeit he does obviously have some likeable attributes. Hence, he still makes the 25. But Harry Dean was one that was very hard to leave out. His form for Murray has been building all year, and I think he's going to be a great asset for Vic Country in the back line because his contested marking and his read of the play is very, very good. Xavier Taylor, same can be said, doesn't have the same height as Harry Dean, but very good at ground level, provides a bit of counter-attack as well, and excellent in the air. Harley Barker, Matt Leray were solid on the weekend for South Australia. Mitch Marsh kicking the 4 goals could easily have made the list as well, and Louis Callaway. So plenty of South Australians right on the precipice. I know there's plenty of people in South Australia that are very high, and Yevon Filippo as well. Unfortunately, he's only played the 3 games this year as a result of injury, which is going to rule him out of the national championships, but he's one that's there or thereabouts as well. So plenty of South Australians about the mark. Kobe Colson's not far off it. He has been in excellent form for Gold Coast Academy, earned the opportunity to spend some time in the Allies midfield and took that with both hands on the weekend. And then Essendon's 2 NGA boys, Adam Swade and Hessine Al-Achkar, alongside the West Coast Tide small forward Wes Wally, some others that are right around the mark. And when this list expands out to 30 next month, we might see them feature.
That's a big list. But yeah, certainly one you can look forward to on the first day of July. Just a bit of a breakdown on this list. So 25 names, 9 club tied. So that kind of gives you a good indication of how long the first night of the draft might be this year. 10 out of Vic Metro. So what's that? 40% of the list. And then you've got 7 attached to the Allies, 3 from Vic Country, 3 from WA, and 2 from SA, and 6 of the 25 key positions. So I guess, it's still probably a decent number, even though it's 6 out of 25. I think what we've seen years gone by, it's maybe a bit similar, maybe even lower. But it's going to be fascinating to see how it all unfolds in November. Let's get into some recap of this National Champs season opener. So Allies hosting SA, and the Croatians getting up by 7 points. I think the score might have even flattered the Allies a little bit, but it was certainly a great contest to kickstart this year's carnival. Yeah,
it was. I think everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but there were a lot of people that expected the Allies to take out the carnival this year. They're going to have to win their last 3 games to be a chance of doing that. And we know the Allies tend to build into the carnival a little bit because they don't train together like some of the other teams as a result of the fact they're all from different states and territories. But yeah, SA were on. Their on-ball brigade was really good. They really took it to the Allies, and it was a really high-quality, free-flowing game of footy. It was good to see
Very
some
enjoyable.
key forwards take some big marks. And, when the ball hit the deck as well, they were willing to put pace on the footy. So, it was good to see players really show off their skill sets. And, it was probably led by the tall brigade at both ends.
Yeah, well, we're just talking about key position players in the top 25, and there are a couple that could be pressing their case. Mitch Marsh, probably a bit more of a medium-sized forward, but Aiden Schubert as well, both kicking 4 goals, sharing 8 between them for South Australia, and then at the other end, Taj Murray booting 4 as a ruck forward hybrid. Big ticks for a lot of the key position boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Aiden Schubert, his contested marking on the weekend was outstanding, and even the marks he wasn't pulling down, it felt like he was going to at least bring it to ground and crash a pack. So, great start to the National Championships for him. And Mitch Marsh, it'll be interesting to see what he becomes, because we know what he can become, what he is aerially, and we know he's quite crafty. He's got the ability to find space. Does he have the ground level game to become that real top prospect is something to watch out for. But he's just got a knack of kicking goals. He's done it at Samford under 18s level, and then he did it on the weekend as well. But those two really led the way and ensured that the SA dominance ended up on the scoreboard.
Mentioned Dill Patterson at 4, Zeke Yuland at 7, Bo Adelsall at 17, but Kobe Coulson, an honourable mention in those rankings before, was one of the Allies' best, and he's another Suns Academy prospect who's pressing his case as a first-round chance. Yeah,
just so clean. Distributes to teammates really well, unselfish, but has the ability to take the game on, really tenacious as well when he needs to be. So a hard-nosed midfielder who showed what he could do inside the contest, but his ability to get to so many stoppages was a real feature, and probably particularly in the first half, he was a reason why the Allies remained as close as they did and fought as hard as they did throughout the day.
Louis Kellaway, one that we've been really excited to see a lot more of this year, tied to Richmond as a father-son prospect. And a player who I think could be, assuming he goes to punt road, could be playing a fair bit of AFL football next year, just given he's probably a good halfback option. And we've seen Harry Sheasel, Nick Dacos, Colby McKercher really just slot into these looser defensive roles. And I think that's a role that he will fit perfectly for them. But he can do that, and he can play midfield. And his SA opener was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't best on ground performance by any means, but still won a couple of centre clearances. Was really, really tough and combative at the contest, and quite clean as well. He's got that composure in traffic. So he's mid. He can also push forward. So he's got that versatility and adaptability to play different roles. And in that forward half of the ground, he's really dangerous with ball in hand. But like you say, could also play off half backs. So a great option for Richmond should they match a bid that will likely come in November.
Mentioned Taj Murray before, equal game high 4 goals, 199 centimetres tall, but he looked like he could be a bit more of a small forward with some of his ground level work and his ruck tap work as well. I think that was a pretty clean one. I can't remember who he put it down to. And I don't think they capitalised on a goal, but it was just so clean, and it just looked like it was such a set-up play. So he really excited out of the NT.
15 hit-outs as well, and took a fair few marks. So, a really good game. And I think there was a 10 to 15-minute period in particular where he kicked a couple of goals, got a few of those really good hit-outs, and it felt like, okay, this kid's got something exciting about him. And after an AFL Academy series where he was a bit quieter, and it is always harder for rucks to really impact going up against seasoned players, it was good to see him show what he could do on the big stage and lay a strong foundation, because he has got that versatility to not only impact with what he's able to do at clearance or at stoppage with his ruck work, but also go forward, take a big grab, take the ball at its highest point with his arms outstretched. We saw that a couple of times, impact at ground level. And then there's also a school of thought from people in South Australia who have seen him up close this year that he could become a centre half back at the next level. So great versatility and a great package, and just upside with the athleticism he's got.
Two I was really happy with were SA's wingmen. So you got Sturts, Harley Barker, and Central District's Matt Leray. I'll speak on Leray first. He just looks like a player who, at 189 centimetres, could really suit that new attacking wingman role in the AFL. What you see out of Ollie Dempsey, that role Angus Clark's begun to play for Essendon, where you have your height and you're a great one-on-one in space on the wing, and then you can float forward and really be damaging when it's countering on the far side of the ground. So he's one. I think he had 7 score involvements from 15 touches and 360 plus metres gained. Used the ball cleanly, 8 marks. Just really damaging going both ways. And Harley Barker as well popped up for 2 goals. I think he had just as many score involvements from a couple extra touches. So they really had a big impact while playing in that kind of isolated role on the wing.
Yeah, they did. I think Matt Leray, particularly in the first quarter, set the game up for South Australia. But both of them are just traditional pure wingers, and it'll be interesting to see how highly they're rated at the draft. I know a couple of years ago, Caleb Windsor was that traditional winger. He went in the top 10 to Melbourne. But traditionally, we tend to see wingers fall back in the draft class a little bit because there is a school of thought that you can play other players on the wing and then graduate them into the midfield or a different role. So, yeah, where they land will be a point of interest. But if you're looking for someone who runs their patterns really well, is disciplined, holds their width, and like you say, understands the modern game, can kick it really well, has aerial potency, and gets back hard in defence, I think, as well as the fact that, Harley Barker kicked a couple of goals, Matt Leray had some score involvements. There were times where they were that outlet kick out of defensive 50, or they were getting back and helping the defence. So, I like that about both of their games. Luke Candy, off half-back, I thought he was really good. He got high and was able to set the game up at times as well, went at a pretty good efficiency and took on some difficult kicks. And Noah Roberts-Thompson as a midfielder after his scintillating form at Sample Under-18s level translated. And although he probably didn't get the touches of some of the Allies midfielders, was probably more influential than some of them at times as well.
Yeah, I really like Sam Ainsworth in the ruck.
Yeah.
Not a player I'm too well across so far this year, but I really liked what I saw. Taking on, often taking on Taj Murray, getting a bit of a chop out from Aiden Schubert, but that was really promising from one of SA's ruckmen.
It's not often you sort of think that both opposing ruckmen feature in their side's best players, but I think they impacted the game in different ways. And Sam Ainsworth won, I think, an equal game high or an equal team high 6 clearances, and was able to take the ball out of the ruck, was quite composed at times, but his follow-up work around the ground was really, really good as well. And then we moved to the Allies, whose midfield, as we've touched on, was headlined by Kobe Coulson, but Dan Annabel's stocks continued to rise because I don't think he's played a bad game at any level this year. And the weekend continued that trend with not only his ability to impact in the contest, but then also in transition. He's kicking so good, and it just feels like he doesn't stop running. And that's sort of a point of difference that he's got on so many other players. So he was a bit of an animal for the Allies.
I'll tell you what, seeing him run around in the number 20, Brisbane fans, and I don't want to pull this too far, but Brisbane fans know a good number 20 they used to have in Simon Black. And there is some nice little comparisons there with what you're getting in Dan Annabel. So just seeing what he's done this year and then seeing what he did against SA, just really composed, consistent, just like the type of midfielder they've pulled out of the Ashcroft boys, and Marshall and Fletcher, just so reliable. It's really going to set them up for the long term. Yeah,
absolutely. Jack Miller as a small forward, I think if there was a weakness that was externally perceived in the Allies' armour, it was their small forward brigade, but I think Jack Miller put that to bed to some degree on the weekend with what he was able to do. His third goal was a Nate Caddy-esque sort of snap over his head more than over his shoulder. That was outstanding. Check that out on Craft of the Draft Instagram if you haven't already. Finished with the 3 goals, including 2 in the first quarter, 1 from outside 50, 1 from deep on the boundary, a really good set shots. So you want your small forwards to be opportunistic. You want them to still be able to impact in the air, and you want them to be quite clean at ground level, and you showed all of that on the weekend.
Yeah, there's plenty to take out of the first game. We've got 2 more coming up this week. WA versus Vic Country at Mineral Resources Reserve, and then SA are hosting Vic Metro at Alberton Oval on the Sunday. Let's start with the first game, and we'll probably just break it up into the 2 squads and who we like, what we can look forward to, who are the prospects to maybe keep an extra eye on. We'll start with WA, given they're the home side on Saturday. You're really happy with the squad that they have this year, maybe compared to years gone by?
Yeah, I think there's a view that it's the deepest squad they have had in a long time. This time last year, there were great question marks about the depth of their 2024 talent. Of course, we know they still had, I think it was the 8 or 9 drafted last year, but this year it could go even deeper just looking at the squad. They are missing Kobe Evans and Cooper Ramsey through injury, unfortunately. So Cooper Ramsey, the big ruck, is a big loss, and we know how much energy and excitement that Kobe Evans provides. But rolling through the midfield, you're going to have Fred Rodriguez spearheading that, but then there's plenty of other names that will be vying for minutes as well. Blake Kelly's been in very good form, Sam Swadling as well, Toby Wine, who we've already talked about on this show. So I think those will be the 4 main names that roll through there. But there's a great balance to that midfield brigade, and I think I think it's going to be a great battle with all the teams' midfields this year because there is so much depth and so much star power in every lineup. But WA are going to be hard to beat, not only that starting midfield, but then as the game progresses, some of the players they're able to bring through there.
You're really keen to see Sam Swadling this year, just at the obviously at a higher level for him. Like, he's just been dominating. And the Colts level, and I don't think he'll have an issue finding the ball at the carnival, but it's really going to see what kind of step he takes in this next part of his game. As you mentioned, you got Kelly, you got Rodriguez around him, and I think that's a nice little mix and combination for WA. And as you mentioned, there's been some knocks on them probably the last 12 to 18 to 24 months, really, maybe the last two drafts on how much talent they're going to get. You mentioned 8 last year, it was 11 the year before that, so when it does come to draft night, seems to be no issues whatsoever from scouts. Now I think they're going to be licking their lips at WA this year. Charlie Banfield and Wes Wally, couple to look out, some hybrid options that can push far up the ground, but then have a pretty big impact deep forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Basil Hart, another one as a small forward. So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing what he can do because probably had a little bit of a quieter period last year than he would like. But, yeah, he's an excitement machine as a small forward and he'll be given every opportunity to succeed, particularly in the absence of Kobe Evans. But I think if we talked about the fact that there's a view that the Allies small forward brigade was viewed as a weakness, which is probably put to bed, well, WA's small forwards are very, very strong when you've got the likes of Basil Hart, when you've got Wes Wally as well. Ryder Luke has kicked goals for fun this year too, so looking forward to seeing what they can do up there. One who will be spearheading that forward line though is Cody Curtin. Be good to see what he can do on national championship stage as a key forward, having played as a key defender at the champs last year to give the top ages an opportunity to shine. We know how good a form he's been in at waffle level. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can translate that to the national champs. And Tom Phillips, another one worth watching. Freo Tide as well, but he's been playing his footy for Scotch College and the Oakley Chargers in Victoria as a border. So yeah, hopefully we see the best of him at champs level as a winger. Yeah, just back on Curtin, can probably expect him to see it in multiple lines. Can play defense if they need him to. I remember a few years ago, Jacob Van Rooyen. They threw him down back just to save the game, and obviously his brother Dan played midfield, key forward, key back. So Cody Curtin's certainly not one that will be stuck into the one position. He certainly can float around. Multi-dimensional. A little bit.
Yeah. And then a few of your names you mentioned, obviously, and you got Ryder Luke, Tyler Williams, just a heap of players that are tied to either WA or Fremantle this year. So if you're Dockers or Eagles fans, you really want to be keeping a very close eye on the WA squad this season. They'll be playing Vic Country on Saturday in Perth. Quite an interesting squad they've got this year. I think there's a lot of some high up talent, but then the depth after that is maybe something we can question. Yeah, I think they do lack a little bit of midfield depth, so they're going to have Hunter Wright probably leading that midfield. Willem Dersma, I expect him to go through the midfield as well, and then Callum Smith, who's been in really good form for the Dandenong Stingrays. I think that's probably what you're looking at as a starting midfield. There are a couple of midfielders that missed that are expected to get in as the championships progress in Brady Atkins and Sam Lewis. Sam Lewis currently nursing a broken bone in his hand, having been in such good form for the Dandenong Stingrays. But the squad, which was announced last week for Vic Country, is expected to be a little bit fluid. There's 3 weeks between their first and second games. So if you don't sort of perform early in the championships, then you could be out and replaced by some players who have been in good form at Coates Talent League level. But yeah, the midfield depth is one that I question in particular. But yeah, we'll see how that goes as the championships unfold. Well, you mentioned Willem Dersma, and we saw what he did in his first game this year for Gippsland in midfield. Do you think that's the best way to utilise him, or do you look at the midfielders you've got and the upside they have, and you try and put him at a half back probably, or maybe as a half forward option either? Yeah, how to best utilise Dersma will be a big question for Rhett McLennan and the Vic Country coaching staff. Rhett McLennan's obviously his coach at Coates League level as well at the Power, so yeah, he'll have a pretty good understanding of what to do with him. But I think AFL recruiters would like to see him in the midfield because it gives them the best opportunity, or gives Willem Dersma the best opportunity to answer the questions that have been raised about his game, being his contest work and his defensive application. Now, I think he is answering that with every passing week. He had 20 disposals, 7 tackles on the weekend, and a lot of those disposals were contested possessions as well. So I think he is answering that at Coates League level, but I wouldn't be surprised if you do use him in the midfield for A, the reason of showing Willem Dersma in a position that allows him to answer the critics, but B, he's giving you star
power in a team that's probably lacking that to some degree. So you want your best players around the ball to best influence the contest, and he's certainly one that will do that. Josh Lindsay, they might even throw him into the midfield as an AFL Academy player, even though his best position is clearly off halfback.
Yeah, they've also got another AFL Academy player, Riley Onley, who can certainly roll through there. Zach O'Keefe, Dersman's teammate. What do you see out of those two for this year?
Yeah, I think Riley Onley, big-bodied midfield, so he's one that's going to have a lot of responsibility to be that hustle-bustle midfielder, use his size to not only his advantage, but also his team's advantage. And then, Zach O'Keefe's one of a few players that's sort of been selected on potential to some degree, in that he's put forward some good footy for Gippsland this year, but he has also been injured for the last few weeks. But clearly the Vic Country selectors have still seen enough. Tom Matthews, another one who's been injured for part of the early area of the season. Noah Hibbins-Hargraves missed some footy already this season, as has Harley Hicks. So they are having some squad members who have missed some footy this year, but hopefully they can come back and are primed for champs.
Few club-tied boys in this. Geelong have two, Jesse Mailer, Ben Rongdit. Melbourne have Toby Cinema as their NGA, Mitch Stevens tied to the Crows. Let's go... Let's talk about maybe Jesse Mailer, because he's certainly excited to start this year, particularly in that Young Gun series for Vic Country. Do you reckon he's going to be a pretty big threat for them, or their biggest threat in the front half? Yeah,
I think he's going to be a really important asset in attack, and he's also one that could get thrown into the midfield, as could Hugo Mukunda, his Geelong Falcons teammate, because he's got the ability to not only take marks and be a real aerial threat, but he's quite hard to play on. So whatever defender gets him, do opponents sort of prioritise the fact that he's so good in the air, and then sacrifice that if it hits the ground, he's going to outdo him at the ground? Or do they sacrifice a little bit of height, but then if it comes in really well to him, then he's going to beat them in the air? So yes, he is, as a result of how hard a matchup he is going to be one that could kick plenty of goals in the champs. Toby Cinema, looking forward to seeing what he can do, the Melbourne Next Generation Academy player, as a winger, and Mitch Stevens probably off half back.
Yeah, very exciting. Let's cross over to Vic Metro. So they'll play SA. Obviously, we've had a good look at SA this week. But what do we think of Vic Metro this year? It's certainly going to bat quite deep. We had 10 of our top 25 tied to this squad. They've got great key position talent across the field, but then when that hits the deck as well, their small forwards are going to be quite sparkly. Yeah,
plenty of run, plenty of dash, and I think there was a view coming into the year that the Victorian talent wasn't as strong, but lo and behold, we have got a strong Vic Metro squad coached by LJ Moorcroft again. So, the midfield, I think that will be headlined by Ollie Greaves, Sam Grill, and Rory Wright. They're the three that I think have best earned the opportunity to start in the Vic Metro midfield, based on their reputation, based more so on how they've started the Coates League season. So look for that in the midfield. But just plenty of run, plenty of excitement, plenty of star power, and different players that can sort of step up at different stages throughout the game and, sort of shift the momentum if they need.
We talk about their front half. Cooper Duff Tytler or Louis Emmett, or who do you want, or Archie Ludowick. Hits the ball, hits the ground. You've got Haseen Al-Ashkar there as well, Lockie Doverston. It's once the ball gets in there, it's going to be pretty hard for the opposition to get the ball back out.
So there's probably 2 points to this. So the first point is how do they balance their 3 ruck forwards? So that's Zach McCarthy, Cooper Duff Tytler, and also Louis Emmett. They've all got the capability of going through the ruck, but at the next level, are any of them starting rucks? So giving them the best opportunity to shine not only in the ruck, but also as forwards, and show what they can do in the front half of the ground, try and take contested marks. That'll be a really potent threat for opponents, in that you're not generally putting your second best key defender on a player of the caliber of a Louis Emmett or someone like that. Archie Ludowick's obviously also in there, like you said, but when the ball hits the ground as well, Tyson Gresham, Haseen Al-Ashkar, Jai Saxonar, and also Lockie Doverston, it's going to be, there's plenty of sort of chances for goals. So, you don't want the Vic Metro midfield getting on top, because if those forwards are getting silver service, it's going to be pretty hard to stop.
I think someone like Louis Emmett will certainly benefit from getting a glimpse last year. Such a hard squad to get into as a bottom major in 2024. Side that, took out the carnival with the last kick of the national championships. And for someone like him, has some experience, might just work for him this year's carnival as well. You talk about balancing the rucks and their midfield. What about their halfbacks? Or maybe like their key position options probably aren't as as a standout, but they've certainly got some nice runners from halfback.
Yeah, they do. So they've got Kai Fincher and Tom Burton. Kai Fincher, the captain of Brighton Grammar, vice captain of Brighton Grammar, been in really good form for them, and also the Sandringham Dragons early in the year. And Tom Burton, we touched on his form off the top, as good as anyone in Victoria at the moment at under 18s level. And then Xavier Bammett will play off halfback as well, and he'll show something a little bit different to his game. We know how good he is as an inside midfielder, but then they've also got some key position players who use the ball really well, and they play probably a little bit smaller than they are. So thinking if Max Kondo-Janis gets a go, Xavier Taylor plays almost like a key position player. We've also got Jackson Barber, who uses the ball really well for a player 197 centimetres, and even a player like Jacob Marin isn't sort of shy to take on some difficult kicks, and Andrew Barker too. So yeah, their defenders that are key position probably don't have the hype around them, but they've still got pretty good ball use. But if they look for the overlap handball, then yes, plenty of run and dash.
Now, something we're going to start doing as well is just at the end of each show is just touch on some weekend highlights. Just things that we want to kind of just flag and inform our watchers and listeners. That's something that we can't probably get into too much. Just given we're probably running out of time already. But where do you want to start from? Just some small talking points from the weekend.
Yeah, well, we'll start with Will Darcy's promising form for Scotch College. He's basically bolted onto the draft radar as a contested marking player, generally playing forward, but he spent some time in defence on the weekend, looked really assured and read the game really well. Looked so natural for a player who's sort of made his name more so as a forward at that level. And although we probably didn't see the best of him at Oakley Chargers level, I think if his weekend's form anything to go off, then we will see him again at Coates League level come the back end of the year.
One last Friday, Hussein Al-Ashkar, Essendon's NGA prospect, made his VFL debut. Very tough conditions up in Queensland in Springfield, but he popped up in the second half, 3 goals from I think about 4 touches when the game was on the line. Was quite promising. That he didn't, struggled in that first half when it probably didn't go his way, and then was resilient, maintained his impact, and like I said, got 3 goals on the board.
One of those goals coming in stoppage time in the last quarter to give Essendon the lead. Unfortunately, they didn't hold on, but clutched that shot from 30 metres out. Harry Dean's stocks are rising. He was best on ground for Murray, took the 10 marks on the weekend, and absolutely excellent. Jack Ison in that school game that I watched Will Darcy play in was very, very lively and exciting as well. So watch for him at the National Championships for Vic Metro as a midfielder, winger, forward. He can sort of play anywhere. He's that prototype 192 centimetre player. And then also Tyson Gresham has found some form in the last fortnight for the Northern Knights. All those 3 players are Carlton tied. So some exciting times for the future if you're Carlton fans. Obviously, the present isn't going the way that you would like at the moment, but the next generation, there's plenty to be happy about.
We'll probably put half an hour aside next week to talk about Cody Walker as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Who they've got in about 16 months' time. He's looking like a great pick 1 contender for them for 2026. Kel Smith, we mentioned earlier, is part of Vic Country's squad. He's doing, he's putting up some great numbers and putting in some great performances for Vic Country, for Dandenong this year after moving from Oakley and also turning away from his school football. What have you liked from him this year?
Yeah, he just finds the footy. He has different ways of finding the footy. He's really, really good in that regard. Defensively, he's quite good in the midfield as well. It's not just finding the footy, but it's also doing the hard work when he doesn't have it. So yeah, he's shown some promise for Dandenong, and his last 4 games have been so consistent, which has been good to see. Bottom age pair for Wesley College, a different school game that I watched on the weekend. Lockie Hicks really carries that midfield. They don't have the star power of some of the other APS schools, but still plenty to like about him. And Flynn Woolhouse took the 5 contested marks and looked a big aerial threat for them.
Just obviously some disappointing news from the last week or so. Felix Knight out injured, will probably miss most of the coming season. Sam Allen and Mitch Moat also long-term setbacks for them.
So Felix Knight, back injury. He may get back for Calder Cannon's finals campaign. Hopefully he does. But he's sort of been managing little injuries since pre-season. So all the best to him in his recovery. Mitch Moat, heartbreaking news. Only played the 4 games, I think, since his ACL return earlier in the year, and then did another injury against the Sandringham Dragons last weekend. So, he's out for another 12 months. Vic Metro train-on player he is. Felix Knight, part of the Vic Metro squad. And Sam Allen at Vic Metro training last Tuesday did an ACL injury as well. So that puts the line through the rest of his season after an exciting start as a winger inside midfielder.
Might call it there. It was a good episode. Plenty of footy to look forward to this weekend. And as always, you can head to Crafters Drop's Instagram page, check out all our latest content, zerohanger.com for all our editorial And as well, we'll have plenty more coverage coming on Zero Hangers YouTube page.